Right.
So when I'm on a table here, right? Or it doesn't matter if I'm on the table or someone else is on the table. I have the capability, let's say this is glass. I can see this body from underneath the glass. In my head, even though they're fully clothed and they're on a table. I know how they're presenting on the table as if this table just rose like this and you can see from underneath. So you'll see people that are either like this lying down, you know, real rigid, right? Some people are like this with their feet underneath them. This is where I never prop. A lot of people, like you see, is more like this. Well, hell, it's a lot harder to get to his lower back. But I've learned if I even go like this to those kind of people, they're so out of balance, you know what I mean? They don't even know how to get comfortable. So I might have to prop when I do something like that. Because we were taught that this is how you work on somebody. Where the feet are underneath the pelvis. So like I said, we were taught that the propping of a body is like this, so feet under the pelvis. But some people are like this, some people are like this, some people are, you know, again, where the top is softer, or some people are really like this. Some people have nice long necks. It's there's all different things. And then when you get girth involved, then that's a whole other conversation. Especially like where I have to use the balls, like when they're just too heavy that their legs don't even close. Anyway, what I say is getting out of a car is when I'm sitting there in a car driving, right? So I've parked, my foot, if I'm in the driver's side, will plant down the right foot and I'll twist to get out of the car. Where most people have to do, you know, get themselves around to get out. So if I do probably better this way, it's a passenger side. So there's a passenger side, if I'm sitting there, I push down and I get out and I can present myself outside the car. But what most people have to do is they have to get out of the car by sitting first and then getting out, because they can't put their foot down and get out of the car. So that same motion sitting up is this. So again, if I'm in a car, I should be able to just plant my foot down and get out. But most people again have to do, you know, and move themselves around and then get out, because they've lost that rotation for the pelvis. So when I have a nice healthy gait, right, my leg can go over my pelvis. So this is going backwards and this is going forwards. So when I walk, see how I can walk over my pelvis. So I can go past my pelvis either way.
Okay, so here or here.
Right.
Okay.
So when I have a nice healthy gait like this, I can automatically assume, because I'm balanced to and fro on this leg, that I can go backwards just as easily. Right? When I have this kind of a gait, I do not need to hold a handrail. I can go up and down stairs, no problem. And I also can get dressed standing up. So those are the life skills that go with that gait. Now my gait goes where it doesn't go past the pelvis. So my gait's now this. See the difference? I'm shortened. So now walking backwards is more difficult. I actually have to place and step. I now need to support with one hand to get dressed. To get dressed, I need support, and I need to start using the handrail. When I'm in a shuffle, right, going backwards, now it's just not happening. So I would actually have to turn around to do that. So I'm avoiding this now because it's so much work to go and do this now, because I'm in shuffle. I now have to go down the steps 1 foot at a time, and I can no longer get dressed standing up. Shuffling, again, my range of counterbalance is so minimal. When I walk like this, then yeah, I can assume that I can do something like this because I walk that way. So I have a much more sophisticated counterbalance. So when someone comes into your office, especially too, like if I have the drapes closed and they're kind of like this, and then I hear the breath too much. Be there in a minute, okay. Or if they're calling me and I hear breathy, I go after breathing first.
So why don't you lie down on the table and talk me through going after breathing.
Okay, so, but anyway, those are my, quote, mental evaluations I do on someone. So again, if they're like, sit down, you know, or they have to repeat it a lot, like what should they do? Again, I have to take it down a notch because they're either looking at me for permission or they're already worried that they're gonna forget the instructions.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? So again, neurological check on my part. So again, these little things I'm ticking off. That's why, again, people go, you should have eval forms. I'm like, why? I've already done it when they walk through the door. And people go, what are you looking at? So now, especially too, again, if they have to circle and plant, then too, again, they have no depth perception because maybe they're bringing their legs here. Maybe they have to do this first. Again, the depth perception, and then commit to sitting. So again, when I'm seeing someone's system that's already that frail, first of all, I know how to work at that level. Second of all, I know that any improvement to that is going to be huge. For all of a sudden, so I watch it. If all of a sudden I get a lot of pelvic movement, I want to make sure I'm there with that same person standing up, because if they're not used to this acceleration, you know, or they get up like that. So that type person too, I'll say, now you're going to feel a lot lighter. It's not lightheadedness, but your brain might be confused. Just take a moment, sit up for a second. And a lot of times too, that kind of person will be like, ooh, okay, you know, and because I don't want them to, you know, associate that with the dizziness. So with that, I've had people where it's like when they come down too, and then they go, this, what was I supposed to go? And finally, if they can't get it, I'll just say, just lie down how you would in bed. And then I start working with them. So again, with that gait kind of thing, so if I'm in a shuffle mode, I want to make sure that person's more propped, because again, if they have that kind of depth perception just getting to the table, they don't know that this is 3 feet. If they don't know how to sit down, they don't know what the width of the table is as far as, and I don't want them like worried about that they're gonna fall over type thing. So I might say that, you know, there's a table behind, give them maybe even an auditory behind them to let them know that there's space behind them as well as in front. I don't normally work on the sternum on the first date type of thing. This is, again, I'm looking for that way of, so to sit up this way versus sitting up this way, again, to give an alternative of getting it off the cancer or the radiation or the trach. You know what I mean? So like I teach Ariana how to reach like this versus this. You know what I mean? It's just a different alternative, because anything that's going to compromise the breathing or the swallow, fuck the ball. You know what I mean? And that's, it's just pure and simple. You see it like when you were choking yesterday. Your body's going to choose breath versus the swallow. So that's where the confused comes in. Now, your body ejected it, did what it had to do, but your brain was going into, okay, breathing, main concern here, nothing else matters. And that's what will happen is the body will, sometimes it'll eliminate, because again, if you had a full bladder right then and your brain's going, breathe first, it's going to dump. So, but if someone's heavy, whatever, first thing they'll do is usually grab. So they'll look for this. Now, when the flow of energy is off like that, it directs the power. So this is where, but again, if the thighs are too thick, then they can't get even this stance for a rollover type thing, right? Or what they have to do is almost like grab and go over and so forth. But this is like a baby. Now they're stuck. So the breathing, any of this turning, and I teach this in class too. I'll have them go like this, breathe. If I hear coughing, then I have concerns, and then I ask them to twist, look at the window, and now breathe. And again, if all of a sudden they're the same thing here or whatever, if there's a cough, and I'm like, so then therefore your brain will pick breathing over getting out of the car. So if I have myself propped, anything here, working on the chest cavity, but I'm always working again, it's a rotation trajectory towards the pelvis, because that's getting up. So that's what I mean by functional movement. So if you were constantly doing towards you, even with the rotation, that's this.
It's just rolling over.
It's just rolling over. So when I get up, I'm still not going to have that synchronization over here.
So see, same thing.
So every body part, that's what you look at. So just pretend like I have lasers or strings. This is where I really would like to play with the visualization. So again, picture strings from the feet to my hands. So when I go down, elbow, even if I come down around like this, right? And go up like a big ball. So that's what practically least amount of effort, right? Because I'm just working on that transfer of weight, or like being a ball. So, do you see it now more? Where you were more here. And that's where, once I'm here, then I might transfer and bring it back up here, and then back down to the pelvis again. So again, that transfer. So guess what? I'm already working on that teeter-totter. Again, so now just see that relationship. So again, if I was just doing that, see how that chest to hips. See that chest to So that's how I work when I'm talking about, I envision the movement when I'm doing something. So,
How do you teach getting down and up from the ground?
first of all, I have to check out where the pelvis is.
Right, what they can.
So I teach it in class. First of all, if someone's gone down involuntarily, meaning they've fallen, stabilize yourself. You could have had a block. First of all, it's embarrassing to fall. Everyone does it, get over it. But when you're in that embarrassed state, that's where people panic. You really don't want to be where you're down on the ground and going, and in that panic stage, because that's where you're unstable. Because your body still wants to say, stay down, and you're trying to get up, and that's where you might go into a secondary fall. Or you get too weak to get up in the beginning with. People expend all their energy in that like fish out of water stage, and then when they really need the energy, they're wiped.
They don't have it.
They don't have it.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, I said, if however you can, come to a sitting position until you're breathing. Now, even if it's here, and then make sure you can look around and then look at your surroundings. Now, if there's a chair or something that's at least nearby that you could possibly, in worst case scenario, crawl to, opt for the chair versus trying to get out up in the middle of the, open thing. And then that's where I go into, where I'm coming up, again, stabilize. And getting over it as much as possible for your pelvis, and just feel that little rock, and then come up to the foot. Look down, look down, look down, look down, and push, stabilize again, and then come up that way. So if I'm driving a car, I should be able to just get in and go like this and present. Most people, again, have to get in and then bring their... So they don't have that.
And, well, I've had people actually that haven't been able to make themselves slide off the table to get down the way that I did.
Right, that's what I'm saying. If
And
they don't
that's
have that, then they can't getting up.
Depth
even more
perception,
So. A lot of
partly.
things. Depth perception. That means they've also probably already fallen once. Let's say if they have stuff that they have to put on the bottom shelf. I think this is much more practical, is using this stool. So the stool is here, and they can go here and then just pivot. And then they can work on the stool and work and put the dishes away. They don't necessarily have to go to flat on the floor.
But how would they do that coming from standing?
Well, for standing, like I said, they can go to a sit in a chair and then a sit to the stool.
But let's say you were trying to empty the dishwasher or something.
Right. But
Or
you,
work in the garden.
Right.
You wouldn't have.
Right. So if you're dealing with a stool, So when you're doing something like this, I would come.
would you have a chair outside and a stool
They
outside?
could be, that's the safest route, but what I would do is where they're coming over it sideways.
Mhm.
Because this way, then they're right here, and they can come down, and it's a bit more stable.
Mhm.
So, and then same thing here, they can go here with, but again, look down at the ground, come over, and then come up.
I've
Right.
never seen that one.
Yeah, but if you come this way, see, I lose my hands
Yes.
in the conversation.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier too, you'll see it. Matter of fact, if I had my way for kids' chairs, this is a lot more stable, and then have the backing here. So they're here, it's much easier for rotation versus the normal chair. But it's stable for a 3-year-old. This is how I would design chairs for like a kid, preschool. So, because again, they have this if they need to or whatever to get up and have that pivot.
You have very interesting original
Well, if I had a
ideas.
dining room chair, see, this would be much more difficult. Where do I put my hands? It's the same thing as a toilet. But if I go to the dining room chair on the side, nobody would even notice, and then I can just adjust.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But my
Yeah.
hand's there. But the same thing if I'm getting out. I can still be talking to you, turn around. I have my hand here, and now and I'm more stable. Versus trying to,
Oh, Lord, yeah.
but where do I put my hands?
Well, most people are pushing there.
But if you're on a dining room chair and there's no there,
Well, I did.
and you're
Depends on
heavier,
how- yeah, how
where
wide
do you put
are,
your
right.
hands? But to
There
just
is
sit
no
there and
place,
go
yeah.
like this, and it's much more stable to carry groceries if they're still trying to do that lift. So again, of anything to work on, especially too if you see the wounded bird, that too usually means they've fallen. And acknowledge, and just ask them. And even if they say no, go with the hunch that they probably have. So artificial floor, all that kind of stuff is great for them to any more of us. What I like about the artificial floor, it's like going from here with a foot to here with a foot. It gives you the extra depth perception of where to go with that. Breathing, like I said, is my number one. Breathing, balance, and heart function. Because without those, they go into protective mode.
But lifting.
So lifting too, again, anything where they're like, you're giving them a lesson, instead of just working on the hand, just see where can that arm go forward with the hand or not. A lot of people are like this, so it's like you're tugging, you have to go back and start working on that seesaw. But that's what you tell them. Look at that, see how much nicer that is that's reaching into the trunk and getting your groceries. So they can assimilate the movement with a function later. Like, oh, she just made it that easier for me to deal with my groceries. Same movement as if I'm going into the trunk and putting my groceries in. Versus hold the shoulder back, restrict it. Come back, sit up, restrict the shoulder. Don't rotate your elbow, and now go into the trunk. You see now your balance is much more, and how much more muscles you need, and that's what hurts the lower back.
Well, if I hold the shoulder, it just seems like a huge amount of energy
Right.
being used.
So do you want the energy being used for your shoulder or for the groceries?
Well.
So now the difference of going in that way.
This makes me think about the exercising with the bands.
Right. I mean, you can put that yellow band in someone's hand and just give it a little bit and just show them from the table just how to do something like this. As far as adding it into the lesson or showing them that's opening a door, closing the door. You know what I mean? That's flushing the toilet, that's starting your keys in the car. All of that there is just all different, very, opening a jar and put the band, this is in a corner.
Right.
you know, or maybe I can go right, but see how that catches just nicely? I can literally be in my the recovery room and just be working on. Doesn't have to be huge strides, but I could just literally be here going, this is self-feeding. You see if I just had a stroke?
Wow.
I can switch my arms now, and I can do here. This is, the shower curtain, all of these little skills that we need. This is getting dressed in the morning, how we're actually, going back to the pulling of our system. So it doesn't have to be a huge, grandiose movement that you're working on, but here to do this versus, and again, when you add the twist of the body, where I want to look into it possibly is how to do, again, more synchronized, but I don't know if that's something to get something that has like little stirrups on. They have those other things that have the hand things. So, but I certainly can just do it this way. See, again, this is getting out of the car.
And in lying down.
Yeah. But you have no idea what this is doing for your glutes and your hips and everything.
Oh, yeah, I know, well, I know,
But this, you know what I mean? Like, what a waste. So, same thing too, if someone's having problems, getting up and down the stairs helps not to let go. So if I'm just here, working on extension, I can do it this way. So I think I'll do a lot of these where it's just little individual things like that, and then big grandiose ones. But I think this would just be really beneficial if you've just had surgery. Let's say you're 60 and over. I want to just work with you on a couple of things before we get up and go to the bathroom. But just from doing these kind of lessons, when I get up off the bed, look, my foot's now already looking for the floor to go to get up. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, I think.
So instead of doing, and even forgetting I have feet, do you know what I mean? And I'm just,
Yeah.
or if I'm here versus being able to go into an extension and bring myself up just from doing those little lessons. I just think that they will really add an awareness. So there's ways of teaching this as like a post-trauma type recovery or awareness. Because even here, I could be just in front of the TV, but again, if I've just had a stroke, to work on just the rotation for each finger.
Yeah, because the combination of resistance and rotation.
Right. Well, the combination too, what I find gives me a lot more awareness. For me to sit there and go, what? Yeah, I mean, again, I don't have function.
Right.
But to do something like this, especially if you're Parkinson's with the tremors, MS, any of that, just to do. I'm just curious to see where this would go, if you could add just a little bit. But like I said, it's just such an easy little task. And then when you get a better grip, then you feel it, you can work on your grip, and then you can work on your grip, and then max it out. But I still say that if a PT is going with someone who's highly arthritic or has essential tremor, and you're getting them to lift like that 10-pound weight, and the hand's more like a claw, you know what I mean, instead of this kind of thing, to offer them, just to do it, even if this is a functional evaluation, if they can't do this, they're not going into. But if I do this a couple of times a day, my chances of being able to handle my house keys, I mean, go up, I think, tremendously versus just squeezing a ball. You know, like just get that ball type thing.
Yeah. How are you doing rotation with your fingers?
here. Okay. Just feel. Now put it on the other finger.
Oh, okay.
Just like you're tying shoes. That's another good thing to show. It's like tying shoes. So just think of what I just showed you, and the same thing. I now am going to tie my shoes. Rotation, torque.
Mm.
So that's where I would take a video and show, see? And that's it, say, but see, now I need my individual fingers to get the string, right? So if I'm like this and I've just had a stroke, this is where it gets really difficult. So again, just like tying the shoes. So I would just show a close-up of the shoe, and now look going around, and again, pulling it through. So everything I'm showing you is in our life skills. Same thing with buttoning shirts.
Mm-hmm.
See? But if you can't rotate, now try and button your shirt.
Well, even just snapping, anyway. Yeah.
Right.
But buttoning
But
particularly
again, but this is
hard.
where Strokes has it, and then I give them these alligator claws. See, again, I'm torquing as I'm loosening, same thing, what I'm, so it's all the same movements.
Yeah, that's good, that's very good.
And I think if we did it this way, it would be more interesting to a PT, OT, because that's, I think
That's
a bit
what they
more
do.
heavy, yeah.
Yeah, they
But
understand.
again, that whole big, so if that client is having problems with, let's say, said motion, that's where you take this, and that's all you're gonna work on, is right here, and just, see? And then go, oh, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you could really take this and turn it into, if you wanted to practice, into a bow tie. You know, you sit here and probably use a smaller one, but
And
But
just,
you can
yeah,
just
tie it and
see.
untie it and, yep.
so there's ways of taking it and just using these dumb things and but I, work even on this. But again, portion is going down. But see, I have much more depth perception doing this versus, now I'm practicing my extension, my counter. But see, this again helps me from not falling. But if it's already here, see what I mean? I'm already working on those kind of functions. Same thing if I was putting my shoes on.
So, going back to the person that shuffles and comes in and lies down on the table, how do you,
Just like a song, with that you really got to work on that pelvis and anything to get that pelvis going, because that pelvis is turned into one whole unit.
and nothing really
So their
happens
tailbones
in
don't
the
wag.
spine until the pelvis gets grounded and awakened.
Whatever, yeah, it's a goner. So, I mean, even just this, I mean, we're taught we should be able to walk without our legs, I get that, but when you're shuffling, not only you're not wagging your tailbone, but your tailbone's now tucked. So it's not even presenting to the floor. So if your tailbone's tucked, how do you sit down?
Horribly.
Right. Well, that's a fall.
Yeah, you fall.
So if you're tucked, that's when you really have to back it up and get here. You know what I mean? Because even just that lap bit, your tailbone can't go, and then, like you said, it's a fall. So it's no longer sitting. Just like it's no longer walking, but still, I want that, any awareness that I can get back to pelvic function.
And starting,
And relationship to that balance through the sternum. That would be the more complexity. So, but I wouldn't be doing it in sitting. I would be doing it on the floor. I mean, on the table.
and spending some time going up and down their spine just to
Right. But that's where I'd be more off to rolling the pelvis, tweaking the spine, rolling the pelvis, tweaking the spine, like I did with you, I think, on Thursday.
yeah, that really helped my hips.
But again, that's getting up. when that spine can rotate in such a way with the pelvis where I can come over and get up.
And she was obese, now she's skinny. She's in her 70s. She has terrible scoliosis. And she stands like this.
Breathing.
Her back,
Right. Do you
And
see how
she's-
your breath is?
yeah, not very present.
Right, no, but I mean, that's where I go after first.
She throws her pelvis forward and she stands.
I get her, just those cheap little rings for the pool.
She does pool exercises too.
But I mean, as far as doing the ATMs, I would have like it semi-deflated underneath the part that's rising to see if that changes her ATMs.
Oh. Well, her, let's see which hip is it? It's actually, the left hip is off the floor.
Right, so if you put just the semi-inflated pool ring underneath there,
Huh.
it might give her more of a substance and then change the way she does the ATMs. Well, like $2.99, you can get it at Walgreens.
Oh, yeah.
Well, like I just put like maybe a breath or two of air in it, just enough to, because when her girth, when she lays on it, anybody's girth, you know what I mean, the air will go away from, so sometimes I fold them in half with just whatever, but it's just enough to give, but when you go to lean on it, then the air will move, sort of similar to what your glutes would do, and stuff that she can work on it. But you don't want it like where it's really, really inflated, so it's affecting, but you know, like underinflate, but so she can feel more of her pelvis going to the floor, sort of like having the stool first, and then bringing. So she might get more out of the classes that way.
Yeah, so she's,
See, if I did that with the rag, it would stay solid, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But the air would
Would
move with,
move.
more so with the body. You
Yeah.
know, a water-based substance like a whoopee cushion or, you know what I mean, like, or, like I said, they kept saying the hips were fine. I said, they're in, but they're not, the hips aren't fine, I need to see the x-ray. And her hips are literally like, they're crooked and it's up. So like I said, it's like she's trying to sit on a table with only 3 legs. It's stable until you move it, and then it's a complete disaster. So when I put this underneath her, you know, so she's like this, trying to hold the hip. And when I put that pull ring underneath her, all of a sudden she went like this. It was really miraculous. And they're like, what the hell just did? I'm like, but she's not unbalanced anymore. It's like I filled the hip in. So it was really quite neat. Like I said, it was just a cheapo. Even if it's not a pull ring, a soccer ball from the dollar store. You know what I mean? Any of those blow up toys. But just put 2 breasts in it.
yeah, no, I could definitely do that. And that'll give her some feeling of some greater feeling of contact with herself.
Right. Or at least her brain will feel like, oh, I do have a hip now.